Hey guys, so this is the ring that we're going to be making today. It's just a really simple little design. It's wrapped around the mandrel twice, then brought up and just wrapped around the edges of a center bead. It's a super simple project, super easy to make, and I'm going to help you guys make this today. So I hope you enjoy, and if you have any suggestions, please let me know in the comments, and I'd love to help make that a reality in the next video. Thanks so much! There are very few things that you need to make this ring. It's super simple, I promise. All you need is some 20 gauge wire. If you're a beginner, I suggest working with soft copper or craft wire that has a copper base, because it's really easy and really malleable, and it makes the project go by so much easier. The piece of wire I have cut here is about 1.5 feet to 2 feet long. That's all I'm going to be using for this project today. If you want your ring to look a little bit bigger, involving the wire like around the outside of the bead, then just cut yourself a little bit more wire to work with. It's the same exact thing as what I'm going to be showing you, just it requires more wrapping. And the tools you need aren't much. You'll just need a pair of wire cutters to cut yourself a piece of wire and to also trim off ends, and you'll need a pair of flat nose pliers to pinch down the ends of the wires when we're done. And of course you're going to need a mandrel so you can not only find out your size but to keep the ring round. Since I already have my wire pre-cut, I'm just going to assume that you guys have done that already, and if not, just pause the video and then cut your wire and come back. Once you have your wire cut, you're just going to take your bead and you're going to put it on your wire, and you're going to try and get it to as close to center as possible. So the way I like to do it is, because I know that I'm going to be bending the wire anyway to make the ring, I kind of just find about where the center is on the wire and pull them until the ends are even, which they're not perfectly even, but that's close enough to me, and then this isn't going to want to run away at all, and it's going to stay in the same place while I'm working on it. So the next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to, after you've put your bead in the center, you're going to decide what size ring you want. So if you're making this as a gift, personally, I always pick between, 9 and 7. Those are pretty much the most popular sizes for rings I've seen in the past couple years that I've been making jewelry. So for an example, I'm going to try and make a size 8 ring. So to make up for the stretching that we're going to be doing afterwards, to kind of just tighten everything up and make sure that it's not going to come loose, you're always going to want to start at least a half a size smaller than the size that you want it to end up being, because we're going to be stretching this down on the mandrel to the size that we want it to be. You don't want it to end up too big. So what you're going to do is, with your bead in the center, you're going to place your bead on about where you want it to sit. So I'm going to go for a 7.5 because I want an 8. So you're just going to bend the 2 wires around the back. The one on the right is going to come up on top here, and the one on the left is going to come around to the bottom, right? And because it's still loose right now, you just want to make sure that you pull it tight before you do the next step and make sure that it's in the proper spot. So I'm at about 7.5 now. So the next thing you're going to do is pretty easy, but a little difficult. It just requires getting your hands in the right spot. So while you're holding everything taut, because you don't want it to lose its size, you're going to bring the top wire here down and around the edge of the bead. See how it got loose because I let go of pressure? So while it's tight, you're going to bring this down and around the outside of the bead and around and around until it's facing the same direction that it was originally. Now you can mess around with this a little bit more to cover up the wire coming out of the side here on this bead, but you don't necessarily have to. So now that that side's done, that side's not really going to come loose. So you're going to move over to the other side. You're going to pull that tight. Move this down into the size that I want it to be. Pull this tight, and you're going to go under the wraps that you just did on that one, but going in the same direction. So they should both be facing the same direction now. See that? Now once you've done that, you can take both at the same time and continue going around with both of them. Keep going, keep going. And then eventually, once you get your preferred size of wire, which I want to add a little bit more, you stop. Now, here's one thing that I want to tell you a little bit about this project. So you see how these two wires, one of them is a little bit longer than the other. Obviously, this smaller one isn't going to make it all the way around to the other side. So we want to make this ring a little bit more even rather than having both of these end on this side. So you're going to take the longer one and see if that one reaches all the way around, which in this case, it kind of does, just the slightest bit. But I'm going to take my pliers and I'm actually going to pull this tighter with my thumb on the ring to kind of hold it in place. I'm going to pull this, and now the tail is a little bit longer, so now I can finish that side of the ring with that tail. This side over here I'm going to use to finish on this side. So now at this point you would take the ring off the mandrel and you would just, you know, give it a quick look over, see that everything looks okay. This kind of bothers me, the fact that this little piece is sticking up, but I'll deal with it for now. None of these are perfect. And everything looks okay. None of the wires on the ring part itself are crossed over. You never want that because it's not going to sit comfortably on your finger. So we're going to move on to finishing up the little prongs here. So what you're going to do is simply, with your pliers to make it easier on your hand, you're just going to bend this down and through, down and through. So now we have that little tail still sticking out. Now you have two options. You can either try and cut it here and pinch it really hard, which wouldn't really match to the design on this because you would be flattening the wire, or you can pull this other end up and over, which is what I'm going to do. Yes, I know this is a little bent, that's okay. Pull this up and over and then pinch it down so the end is on top. Now, having the little end piece on top normally isn't very pretty, but it's an easy solution when your wires are too short and you can't really hide it. So we're going to be doing the same exact thing on the other side, and we're going to leave the little end piece on the top to make sure that it matches. So since this one's a little bit longer, I'm going to use my finger to do it. I'm going to bend it to get it through the ring. I'm just going to push it through the ring to the other side. And before you finalize this side, before you pinch it down, you want to make sure that the band itself is not crossing over. So you should be able to put your nail through the whole way through between these two bands. You want to make sure that they're not crossed or anything. Like I said earlier, it will sit very uncomfortably on your finger and it won't look as pretty. So the next thing you're going to do is to make it match the other side. We're going to pull this down. So we already wrapped around once, and now to make it match, you're going to go back with your cutters and you're actually going to lift up this prong a tiny bit. See how now I can get my pliers in there? And you're going to trim and make it the same length as the other side. So I'm leaving just enough that I can still pinch it down, but not too much so it goes over the edge like it actually is now. So I'm actually going to lift this back up if I can and trim it a little bit more You don't want it to be so long that it folds over the edge, because then it could possibly run against your skin. And you want to make sure that, you know, it's okay if the band gets a little bent. We're going to be putting it back on the mandrel to stretch it to the final size, so it'll get round again. But you want to make sure that those ends are really pinched down, and you're going to run your finger over those ends too to make sure that they're not sticking up. If they grate against your skin at all, you need to go back with a file and file them flat. So far, these don't seem to be bothering my finger too much, so I don't think they're going to bother whoever ends up wearing this. So that's pretty much the ring. Now we're going to put it back on the mandrel. And the easiest way to do this is to hold the mandrel itself between this portion of your hand where it dips in a little bit, there and there, and then you're going to go back with your nails up here on the ring and pull it down. It's easy if you use your thumb too to bring the bead a little bit. It'll give you a little more leverage, and you're just going to pull down. And the easiest way to get this off, now that it's stretched, so it technically is on there pretty tight, you just take it and you twist, and it loosens right up, and it'll come right off. So now that's pretty much our finished ring. Now I'm not going to show you how to do the hammered band, because it's pretty simple. All you really need to do is put it back on the size that you want and just hammer the band flat slightly to make the band a little bit stronger. And it's going to prevent the ring itself from, you know, bending and folding and morphing to someone's finger. But that's pretty much it. It's all done. Ring's done. Once you figure out how to do these pretty efficiently, they go by pretty quick. And they don't take more than a couple minutes to make. So I hope this was a simple enough project, and I hope you enjoyed. If you have any suggestions, maybe a different camera angle or another explanation of certain things, please leave it in the comments. I'd love to know so I can improve future videos. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day!